Hi, friends. Y'all hell done froze over. Look who I have on my channel, child. I know disasters are clutching their invisible pearls, but I will say this. I am so excited, y'all. I am excited to have Lindsay on my channel. Hello,
Hi,
Lindsay.
everybody.
All right, Lindsay, let's just get on into it. First, let me
Okay.
just ask you, how's school going?
It's school. It's going good. My
It's going
GPA is
good.
good. Yeah. It
All
sometimes is
right.
a lot, but I like it.
And did you graduate? You getting your master's or is this your bachelor's?
My bachelor's, I'll have my bachelor's in December, and then I'll
Oh,
go
okay.
straight into my master's program. So if I time it right, I'll graduate with my master's right as Miley's graduating high school. And that
Really?
way, I won't have that empty nesters. I'll be like, it's time to start my career as she's leaving me.
I will say this. Watching you from your first season of Love After Lockup and seeing Miley, I remember seeing that scene where you were inside of the house, Miley was outside, you were bent down, and you were looking through the glass door.
Yep.
Miley was so just a little cute little girl. To see this girl now is unbelievable how much she has grown. What is she, 12 or 13 now?
She's 14 now. She was
14.
10 when our very
Yeah.
first time we filmed. And it
Right.
was funny because we had a lot of people say, they're like, oh, it's not even the same kid. That's a different one.
Yeah.
She must have more. I'm like, no, she's just, that difference in like 10 to 14 is massive.
Right. Boy, did she grow.
She does
She's
it
a
a
pretty
lot.
little girl. She's
And she
real
knows it
pretty.
too.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure. Now let's talk about your step grandmother. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Which, when you said that, you blew people's mind. I
Yeah.
thought that was your mom.
Most people did because I call her mom. Because to
Right.
me, she is my mom. Like, she raised me.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, she married my grandfather, and
Mhm.
she has raised me since I was 6 months old. And then when I went to prison, she raised Miley for 6 years. So she has done more than her due.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And she's
She's
still
well
driving.
liked.
She drives to my house twice a week to pick Miley up from school for me because I don't get out of class in
Mhm.
time. So she's still doing more than what, grandmothers typically do. But she is like an angel from heaven, direct delivery from God. Don't know what I would do without her.
She seems like, well, she's well liked on the show.
Oh yeah, she's
Yeah.
adored.
Yeah, she really is. So let's get into the nitty gritty, child. Let's just end the sweet talk, child. What have you learned from the first time being on the show to now? How have you grown?
So, what most people don't get to see is themselves in active addiction. Because when you're in addiction, when you're using drugs, you really feel like you're maintaining. You feel like nobody can tell. You feel like you're hiding it especially well. And then if you're on TV, you realize that none of that is true. That you look a hot mess, that your chin hadn't stopped moving, and that you done committed a
Did.
whole crime on national television.
Right, right.
So, seeing myself in addiction, I think really was a wake up call that I actually might not have had it not been for Love After Lockup.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because you really
What?
feel like in your mind, you really feel like nobody can tell I'm on drugs. Nobody can tell I'm high.
Yeah,
I'm good. And then I'm
right,
watching it and going, everybody knows.
right. Did you look back on your first season and think to yourself, what was I thinking?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you're in jail, when you go to prison, like you replay stuff in your head over and over. That's just
Right.
that's just how it is. But to actually see it play out in front of me week after week was so much worse.
What did the other inmates think?
I mean, they thought it was
Wait a
cool.
minute, were y'all able to watch that in prison or no?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, we watched. Yeah, oh, it's a big thing. Felon Friday is just as big inside as it is outside, I assure you. We have, because
And
there's
what?
like a bunch of different televisions in each unit, and it'll be on like all of them.
And what did they think? Like when they seen you, like were they like, "Are you the Lindsay?" or
they didn't know me as Lindsay. They knew me as Barbie. Because when I went to prison, I went back to a facility I had already been to.
And that
nobody
was your
even
nickname?
knew my name until I was on television. Everybody knew me as Barbie. Like, because in prison, a lot of people pick up nicknames. And that was a nickname that somebody had given to me on the way to prison because there was another Lindsay in the same bus as us. And so they had started calling me Barbie, and it had stuck. So I get home, I get back the second time, and they're like, "Hi, Lindsay." And I was like,
I want to ask this because I wasn't a fan of his. What attracted you to Scott? Stiff upper lip. I mean, what was his attraction?
$20,000 in 2 years was his attraction. Girl, I was 26. I know y'all didn't think no 26-year-old done fell in love with a 52-year-old man.
Well, honey, I knew it wasn't love. I knew that was not love.
What he did for me. I loved that.
Girl, he got on my nerve. I couldn't stand Scott.
He could make a
and you probably know that, child. I couldn't deal with him. But let me ask you a question about your little friend that was going to bring that raggedy camper into the driveway. Honey, do you
glamper? It was a glamper, a glamorous camper.
Oh, it was
a glamper.
Well, where's she at? What was her name?
Tarabelle.
Yeah.
I talked
you
to
still
her.
Talk to her?
We don't see each other because we're both in recovery, and some people you're just not good with. But we talk all the time. Like we stay in touch. We just don't like actually hang out with each other. But no, she's doing really good. She's like manager over like an entire factory. Like she makes bank now. She's doing really good.
Well, that's
got custody of her kids back and all that stuff.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
How do people perceive you outside of the show? Like your normal everyday life. How do people perceive you? I mean, do people notice you?
A lot of people do. The people that know me from real life tend to not watch the show. I have several people who are like, I'm not going to watch the show because this is who I know of you, and that's why I want to stay. And I'm like, well, you can watch the current show. I wouldn't watch the show from 4 years ago.
Right.
That might not be the picture of me you're used to seeing, but a lot of people like at school, most people don't recognize me because it's not the target age range. You usually don't see a lot of like 18 to 20-year-olds watching the show. Okay. I tend to be recognized by more of the staff at college than I do the people in the classes with me.
Right. And how does it affect Miley? Because let me just say this, I have a soft spot for the kids.
I know it. And I like to have lost it when you did your Miley impersonation the morning of the breakfast. I ran into Miley's room. I was like, watch this, Miley.
I was like, now I know Blaine ain't cutting up on my television. But, so she's okay with it.
Yeah, well, the thing is that her friends are at the age range, but they don't watch the show.
Okay, good.
They don't watch it at all. Miley doesn't watch the show. She will say, yell at me when I come on. Other than the parts that she's in, she won't watch it.
Okay.
She won't even sit on the couch and pretend to watch it with me. She'll start and then she'll be like, well, I'm going to go to my room now. And I'm like, no, stay with me. It's Spelling Friday. And she's like, eh.
So, speaking of love after lockup, that's the whole premise, love after lockup. Now, we seen last season, honey, you and Blaine just cut all the way up, child. And Blaine done called you a see you next Tuesday. Now, I'm going to ask you this. We know that part of the show is scripted. But when Blaine called you that seemed like it came from his chest.
Now, see, a lot of people where they get like the whole like it's scripted thing from is that it's not that it didn't really happen. It just may not have happened exactly like we had a situation one time where a camera was messed up. So I had to go back and reread every single thing. But I had already said those things originally.
Right.
So it wasn't really scripted because it was what I said, but I had to re-say it type situations. And that's where things get a little mixed up. But no, actually this season was it was very real. It was very raw, and it was probably one of my least favorite to watch to date. Because I had a lot of faith in me and Blaine, and I put a lot of hope, and I was just really, really sure of this. I really was. And when it fell apart the first time, it was hard to deal with. But then watching it fall apart the second time was almost just as bad. It was like opening up wounds that had barely even started to heal.
Yeah.
And like a lot of that stuff, because we had broken up, you know, before the show aired, a lot of the stuff we hadn't actually addressed. So, because like, I don't know everything that's happening. Like, just because Blaine's filmed it doesn't mean I know about it. Like, Blaine didn't even know I had gotten on the birth control until it aired, because I'd never told him. We had broke up before I had gotten to that point. And then stuff like, I don't know, it's just, and it almost makes me mad because like, I know production knows what's going on in his life, but they're never going to tell me.
Right.
But, and it's hard because these are people that are in and out of your life all the time. And you want to be like, I thought we was cooler than that. Like, can't you give me a hint? Like, can't you, you know, but no, they can't. I have to remind myself of that. But
how hard is it when we as viewers see the show and we're seeing, I don't know, 6, 8, a year behind, like we're behind. And you all have moved on, you've done broken up. How hard is it to watch it, first of all, but to hear us as recappers and reviewers saying, now what is this mess? Because some news leak.
Yes.
And it's like, they've already done broke up. And so how hard is it that y'all have to keep quiet?
I have found
and not say anything.
At first it was very, very difficult, but as I've done this for a few years, I've learned to just kind of like maintain the status quo, just because I don't want to mess up the experience for the viewers. Like, people that enjoy watching the show, they don't want to know my whole story before it comes out. That's not fun. You know, that it's like reading the end of a book before you start it. It takes away the big poof at the end. So I don't want to do that. And that's what I remind myself all the time. I'm like, I'm not going to be selfish, because that would be me being selfish and taking away, you know, from people who enjoy watching the show. And so I always try really hard to stay with my social media, with wherever y'all are with the show, as far, even as going as far as, because a lot of people during the proposal, I posted the proposal pictures between me and Blaine of, you know, the truck that I had done and all this stuff. And people are like, y'all already broke up. Why are you posting this now, for attention? No, because I held on to that. Like, obviously when I proposed to Blaine, I wanted to go post it right then. I wanted to tell everybody right then, I'm engaged, y'all. I'm engaged. I was so excited for that. And I didn't get to do that. So, you know, sometimes you do have to wait. And that's probably the harder part. It's like, I cannot imagine being one of the cast members that has had a child. I can't imagine having, you know, Manhattan Barbie and not being able to post her, or, you know, I can't, it would have drove me nuts, or Charlie. I would have, it would have been so hard, because when you have good things happen to you, you want to tell the world.
I know that would be hard, you know, because
it's easier to keep the bad stuff quiet. It's easier to not run to the internet and be like, oh, I'm broken up. You know, it's easier to not say that. It's harder to not say, I started school again, you know, because when y'all found out about me being in school, I had already done a year.
Right.
So that's
because it's so far behind, because we're so far.
Because they filmed for this huge period of time, and then it finally airs. And it's like almost old news to me. And then if it's something bad like this, the whole breakup with Blaine, then it's like, it's just, it reopens stuff that I didn't want to deal with. That's probably why this was my hardest season.
You relive.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Blaine?
Yeah, me and Blaine are on good terms. We're on friendly terms.
That's good.
So I get to see Kagan and stuff. And I don't know. I just feel everybody gives me so much crap. They're like, you know, y'all are gonna get back together, or why aren't y'all already back together? But like, we haven't fixed anything. Like, where we were when we broke up, I feel like we were still in that exact same spot. I mean, Blaine is doing therapy now, which was something I had really pushed for him to do before. But other than that, like, it's the same.
What all Blaine said about you, not very nice.
No, tell me what you really feel.
On camera. Now, I'm going to talk about Deonte.
Okay.
Deonte is another one that when we found out that you and Deonte were together, honey, y'all almost blew up the internet. I mean, people was like, nah, I know not. So the main question, did you use Deonte to be on the show?
No, and see, that always confused me about why people thought that, because it didn't matter who I dated. I was going to be back on the show. I mean, I literally could have dated anybody. I was actually supposed to be on the show with somebody else before Deonte, the person I was dating before Deonte. I was dating a woman, actually. Her name was Stephanie. Mm-hmm. And we had dated for a while, and she actually relapsed, and I broke it off after she relapsed because I had gotten in my head I was going to be serious about my recovery this time. And so for people to say, like, oh, like, you used him, I was like, for what? Because I didn't need him to be back on TV. He didn't send me any money. So I was like, I just can't figure out, like, where I would have benefited from the Deonte thing.
Why Deonte?
Okay, so I had never gotten to experience, like, being outside while on television, because I was locked up by the second episode. I had never talked to anybody else, and I kind of wanted, like, I was seeing stuff posted, but it was all like secondhand. So like we have like computers in the feds, and we have like services, like internet services. So I was reading like the articles and stuff, but I wasn't seeing it for myself. It was taking longer to get there. But I didn't have anybody to like confide in or talk to or be like, what is this like for you, or anything like that. And so the girl I was talking to, Stephanie, she was a super fan. I didn't realize she was a super fan when I started talking to her. So I had given her my social media to run my social media pages for me, and she contacted like every Love After Lockup cast member ever on the show from my Facebook page, and Deonte was one of them. But most of them didn't respond, but Deonte did. And then she was telling me about Deonte, and I was like, oh, the cute one. And she was like, yes, girl, yes. And I was like, well, I want to talk to him too. You just stole my Facebook page and talked to my Instagram, which I wasn't mad about it or whatever. I thought, you know, she was just having fun. It wasn't really a big deal. But so Deonte and Stephanie talked a lot at first. And then I talked to Deonte a couple times, like maybe twice the first month, because we have limited phone calls in there. And when Stephanie relapsed and I broke up with her, the only person that knew Stephanie was my mom and Deonte, because I was in prison. I didn't talk a lot. So, and I didn't want to call my mom and cry over the girl that I just had to break up with because, you know, she relapsed. I didn't want to put any drama on my mama. So I called Deonte and cried. And that's how me and Deonte really started talking, because I was used to talking to Stephanie. I was buying people's minutes so that I could talk to her a bunch every day. And so suddenly I have like all these minutes. And I mean, my mom is good about answering, but Miley's in school. And like, my mom doesn't want to talk to me, you know, for 45 minutes a day for all these minutes that I bought. So I started replacing, instead of calling Stephanie, I started calling Deonte. And he was the person that was there for me through that breakup. And he understood what I was going through because he had just had that bad, you know, relationship with Nicole. So we kind of bonded over that. And that's kind of where it started. And then it just naturally kind of went from there. I wasn't expecting it for sure.
Now, when y'all started dating and it started coming out that y'all were dating, did y'all know y'all was going to go on the show? Or did y'all say, we're not going to go on the show? Or was it a mutual decision to be on the show?
So I didn't realize back then that it was like a big deal to like associate heavily with other cast members, because I don't know why that rule is exactly. I don't know if they don't want us comparing, you know, what it's like for us or something like that. I don't know. But I found that after the fact. So we were thinking that they were not going to pick us up because we had broken a rule by talking. And actually, we didn't tell him for a long time because I didn't want to get in trouble and he didn't want to get in trouble. So it was like, you tell him. I was like, you tell him. And so we had decided that if they made a big deal about it, they said that, you know, they weren't going to pick us up. We were just going to go ahead and, I mean, we were going to date either way. We weren't going to let the show dictate whether we were together or not. And then, but Deonte told him. I was too scared. Deonte told him, and they were like, okay, that's fine. And we were like, really? And so they announced it, and I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this.
All right, so we seen y'all's relationship, what we seen play out, and we seen the big blow up, the argument on the street, and, you know, Deonte, Blaine have some words. Now, Deonte have said that you had carried on a relationship with Blaine while with him. Is that true?
No. Me and
Okay.
Deonte had broke up. Oh, there was some miscommunication. Obviously, I should have been more clear about ending the relationship. I told him that it was a lot on me and that it felt like we were arguing a lot and we were going a lot of back and forth, and I didn't feel like it was a good place. And I thought we should just pause and step back and just kind of take a break.
Mm-hmm.
In Deonte's mind, that meant we were like putting it on hold, but not actually breaking up. But to me, it meant we were breaking up. I was just trying to find the best way to say that without being like, shady or cruel or like hurting him.
Mm-hmm.
I like Deonte. I never said I don't like Deonte, and I did not want to hurt him. It just wasn't working. I just felt super overwhelmed, and we weren't connecting the way we had when I was in prison. When I was in prison, we connected so good. And it was like now that I was out, it was like we were on two different planets. It was like it's like he couldn't hear what I was saying, or he wasn't getting where I was coming from. And I'm sure he felt the same exact way about me. And it just seemed like we weren't there anymore. And so I thought, and I knew I was feeling Blaine, but I hadn't acted on any of those feelings because I was with Deonte. But it got to the point where I was like really dreading talking to Deonte because we were just arguing so much. And so when I told him, like, I think we talked like an hour, and I was like, well, I really think we should just kind of take a break, take a step back, pause this. And then that's when, but Deonte took it as like the relationship was still going, but we were going to like pause. Like he just took it differently than what I did.
Now, Deonte and Blaine said that you was manipulative
Yeah, I hear that.
and conniving.
Uh-huh.
Why do you think they have such a visceral response to you? Why is that?
I don't know. Obviously, I am a manipulative person, and I'm trying to work on that. Like, I've done a lot of therapy hours, but
Right.
I kind of get frustrated at Blaine because I don't really see where he felt like he was manipulated. Which he's changed his tune now, but at the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
he felt that way, and I
Right.
still have a hard time like really understanding why. Because for me, it felt like I was doing everything I could. Like I felt like I was putting so much into the relationship and wasn't really asking that much in return from him. And so that's where I get like, that's why I
When
feel like
y'all had that, when y'all had that argument, excuse me, when y'all had that argument, and you told him, I'm doing everything, cooking, cleaning, contributing, I'm paying this, I'm paying that. His reaction was, you're not going to, this is just from my perspective, you're not going to embarrass me on this television. You're
yes,
not going to tell me that I'm not contributing to this household. Do you feel like you shouldn't have said that, or you were serious when you said that? Because how
no,
he reacted, he was like, that's not true.
sorry, my mom was talking to the dog. No, see, that's the thing. I get really frustrated when we suddenly want to. Listen, if I did it wrong, let's put it out there. I did it wrong. I have been, you've seen me from every angle on the show because I try to
Right.
keep it as real as possible. I try to be very just myself. So I get frustrated when I'm like, oh, we're just not doing this because you don't want to look bad, right? Is that what we're doing? Because I'm paying all the bills. I'm working full time and going to school full time. That morning we filmed was a Friday morning. So that means that I had woke up at 4 a.m. the day before, left the house by 5, been to school by 7, class by 8, was in school till 3:30, rushed home, got taken from school, picked up Miley from practice, came home, cooked dinner, took a shower, went to work, worked 8 hours, got home, and you're in bed asleep. And the kids are not ready. Because when that happens, that means that now Blaine has to jump up and get himself ready because he has to hurry to work, and I have to take the kids. I don't like driving the kids when I've been up for more than 24 hours because it's not a good driving when you're inebriated. It's like literally like you're under the influence. And so I specifically ask for Friday mornings to not have to take the kids to school because I have been up for more than 24 hours. I'm not going to pretend like that's not happening. I'm not going to pretend like that's not legitimately going on in our lives. frequently. I'm not going to pretend like you're working full time if you're not. I'm not going to pretend like you're paying bills if you're not. I'm just not going to do it. And I don't think it's fair that he even asked me to.
How do you take the ridicule that you get? Is it hard?
Skin.
Thick skin. Okay.
Wait, we moved past Lizard Lindsay. Got you.
Amen, child. Because, honey, baby, and let me just say this. That season, you came in, and lot lizard, we all know what that means. If people don't know what lot lizard is, let me explain to you. Lot lizard is a prostitute, and it is a woman who is at a truck stop getting her funds on. The reason why I came up with lot lizard Lindsay is because I was watching a show on television, and it was a show that had lot lizards, and I nicknamed everybody on the show.
I know.
And so
Destiny
your first
fire,
season,
Destiny.
Absolutely, and I will never apologize for that. But I was like, I need to have Lindsay a name, and I said, "Oh well, lot lizard Lindsay." I had no idea it was going to take off. Now, the first season, you was a hot mess with a triple S. I mean, you just was. And you were not my fave. I was like, who is this girl? Why is she acting like this? She was just all over the place. You was on that couch, honey, with that bandana cricket. And honey, you was all up in stiff upper lips face. I was like, what is happening? But anyway. But now, since you have grown, and you have taken some responsibility, you have acted somewhat accordingly, I have dropped lot lizard.
No. So when I was in prison for the opening, which is when I got a lot of the hate because I wasn't my best version of me. Let's put it that way. Right. And the thing is, it was understandable because even watching myself act out in active addiction, I could say like, hey, I don't really like that person. And so it was easier for me to take. Now, when it actually got harder is when I came home and I'm really working on my sobriety for the first time. And I'm going to school and I'm working full time and I'm doing everything to what I feel is like the best of my ability. Right. And I was still getting hate from people. That's where it started bothering me a little bit because at first, Love After Lockup and Life After Lockup with Scott, I was like, okay, I was in active addiction. Like they didn't like me then. Like I don't like me then. But when it was my authentic person, when I was really trying hard and I was still getting some of the negative comments, that kind of hurt my feelings some because I felt like I had put my authentic self out there and people still didn't like me for me this time. But I have thick skin. So.
Well, that's good.
What I tried to do is I tried to take things constructively. So when people would say her makeup is a hot mess, looking like she got dark eyes from the 80s, I said I should probably watch some makeup tutorials. And when they said, look at her clothes acting like she just walked out of the 90s, I said I should read a magazine. So I tried to take
the fashions. The Love After Lockup fashions, honey, we can't get enough of it. I love it. Honey,
I'm doing better. My current season was so much better. I'm getting there.
It was better.
I've even gone to a center part for my child.
But I will say, when we watch the show, the current season, and then when someone like Deonte gets on his Instagram and brings up some old gossip, how do you react to that?
So I don't watch any of Deonte's anythings.
Really?
The only time I even know what Deonte says is when people come to my inbox and they're like, let me tell you what Deonte's saying, this, and this. And I'll always respond, thank you if you have good intentions with this, but that's not something I'm interested in hearing about.
So you have not spoken to Deonte?
No. Nor do I have any desire to, because me and him, we just seem to have like a lot of toxic, like anytime we mix, it seems to become toxic really fast. And not even just for me, like for both of us, like we don't seem to be positive influences in each other's lives.
Right. Now, Deonte's out. You and Blaine are in a good spot right now. rumors are starting because Kevin commented on one of your photos or videos. I didn't even know that. I was doing I had put up my recap and someone had commented and said, "Oh, well, Lindsay is dating Kevin." And I said,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
okay. I was like, dang on, when did this happen? So then, of course, I did my own little research and then I seen where you either commented under somebody or you did a story. I can't remember what it was, but you was like, don't believe everything you read, or I can't remember how it went. So
Yeah. Kevin
are
had
you and
posted-
Kevin just nothing?
Yeah, I wouldn't even call us friends. Like, we don't even talk. Like,
Mhm.
I follow him on social media, but I follow a lot of the cast members. Any of the cast
Right.
members that I like, you know, like anybody else that watches, I'm a fan of several of the cast members too. I follow them on social media. I follow like Chevelle, I follow Kevin, I follow Sarah, and I follow Kayla. That's why I was like, wait a minute, let's back up a little bit, because like they had just posted pictures for her birthday together. And all he posted under my picture was an emoji. He didn't even use a word. And I had made a comment because as soon as he posted that, they had gone on Reddit and stuff and was talking about me and Kevin. And I had made a comment. I was like, oh, you know, they're trying to ship us. Which Miley explained to me means that they're trying to put you two in a relationship.
Yes, in a relationship. Right.
I had just learned that phrase. I was very eager to use it. And I had posted that under it, and he said like, LO, he said, what is that? And I was like, oh, Google it. And that was the entirety of it. And then the next thing I know, everybody thinks that I'm dating Kevin. I was like, wait.
If I could be honest, I don't see anything wrong with you dating Kevin. In fact, I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. Y'all need to be on the show together. Because, honey, Kevin, let me tell you something. That little Kevin, honey, he tripped me out so much. I couldn't get enough of Kevin. Kevin got on my nerves a little bit. But one thing he did do when he punched that guy to that ground, I was like, okay, Kevin.
That was probably one of my favorite scenes I've ever watched on the show.
I could not believe it. And I was thinking to myself, that guy, he earned that because he should have been messing with Kevin to begin with.
He stuck his chin out there and he asked for it.
He sure did. And Kevin told him, Kevin was like, you need to walk away. You need to. And I guess that guy was like, Kevin being so little. You know, I don't know how tall Kevin is, but on TV, he just looks like a little guy.
Yeah.
And, honey, Kevin showed him what was up. And I was like, Kevin, okay. All right, Kevin. So anyway, would you, in order to be on the show, you will have to be, of course, would you be back on the show?
Would I be back? Yeah, absolutely. I love being on the show. I've
really,
always
do you? Why do you like being on the show?
I really think that the show is what helped me turn my life around. The show and prison. Really? Seeing that play out on the screen made a big difference for me. And it's a unique experience that I've always been really grateful for. I've always enjoyed it. I mean, it definitely has its downsides with, like, you know, some of the backlash of putting my reality out there. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't trade this experience for anything. It's been great. So
there are some cast members who have said they would never go back on the show. So you saying that you enjoy doing the show, I think that's surprising.
Well, I mean, I think it's what you make of it. Yeah. And some people, like, they don't like it. It's just not their thing. And that's totally understandable. You know, some people don't like basketball. I'm not going to take them to a basketball game. I mean, I've always thought being on the show was fun. It was a cool experience, and I'm really happy to be part of the franchise. It's always been something I've enjoyed. Even after my first season with Scott, I was like, when I was going again, I was like, it's got to be better than the first time, right? Because Scott can make anything miserable. He could make Walt Disney World miserable. The thing is, Scott was the worst person about turning it on for the cameras. And it wasn't just that way when the cameras were, it was in general. When my mom was around, he'd act a certain way. When we were around, you know, people, he would change up. And when the cameras were there, he would put on this like smiley face. But the Scott, when no one else was there, was just totally different. Like, it was night and day. And the thing is that, so much. So I tell people all the time, they're like, you know, do you think you got a bad edit? Do you think this is that? I'm like, no, here's the thing. Y'all see the super good aspects of my life, these super great moments, and you see these like deeply depressing low moments, and you miss the meat of it just because there's not enough time. There's not, you know, we have an hour and a half every week. There's, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9 couples. So you see me explode, but you don't get to see all the crap Scott does to make me explode.
Right.
And that just, you can't really understand until you're seeing all the little nitpicky things. And Scott had one, when Scott originally started writing me, he sent me pictures of himself. Them pictures were 12 years old.
Ugh.
Okay. So we had already gotten off to a bad start, but he followed up those 12-year-old pictures with $100. So then we got back on the good page. I never had to ask Scott for any money. Scott always
just said it.
He would offer it. He would send it without even saying anything. And I sent home tons of money to Miley. I would cut her a check out of my books from what Scott was sending to me. And then I came home with several $1,000s on my little debit card with my mugshot on it, at least from prison, because of the money that Scott had sent me and stuff. And Scott was good. You know, he bought Miley presents one year for Christmas and stuff like that. So I was really appreciative of what Scott was doing. However, Scott was incredibly racist. Incredibly racist. But what I figured out afterwards is, so when I had went through Scott's computer, all of his porn was of Black women. All of it. There was not one white person on the whole computer. So I was like, maybe he's one of these people that's like super attracted to Black people and is like angry at himself for it. You know, like one of those people that like is mad that he does like that he likes Black people and he's mad about it.
Right.
Because I was like, I think I'm the wrong color for him. I'm not Black.
Really?
And I asked him, I was like, why are there no white women on your porn?
And what did he say to that? Because let me just tell you, that's the only way he gonna be getting a Black woman. Okay, it's through that computer. Please tell me he ain't dating no Black woman.
No, I mean, he talked to a lot of people, a lot of escorts, and the thing is, he claimed that he didn't. But what I saw was just like, I mean, it wasn't like 5 or 6 or 10 messages. It was like massive amounts of messages each day dedicated to talking to and setting up. And a lot of them, what I noticed is he didn't actually have a lot of people that he actually like met with, from what I could tell. It was a lot of setting things up though. It was a lot of talking about it. And so I was super confused. And what y'all didn't see from the show, and I have come out and said it, Scott gave me an STD. Scott gave me chlamydia, which is why I had originally gone through his computer.
Wait a minute. Let me take a pause, Lindsay. Cut this. When did you come out? You told this?
Yeah, I told it on social media. Scott gave me chlamydia. Scott gave me chlamydia. Because I came home. I had not been with anybody. Okay, I was on house arrest. This is before Tarabelle had even come through. The first time I saw Tarabelle, when we were first hanging out and talking to her, I was like, girl, I think like me coming home is messing with my lady parts. Like, I think it's the food or probably like all the caffeine I'm drinking. I was like, I don't know if it's like a UTI or something. And she was like, well, have you taken anything? And I'm like, yeah, I've taken the AZO. I've got the, what's it called? Starts with the M, whatever. I had ordered off Amazon. I was like, I've tried everything. And she was like, well, I mean, you don't think he gave you an STD, do you? And I was like, no, he's 56. Like, the man knows how to, you know, get checked. Like, obviously, like he's a grown ass man. He's not some little boy. And she was like, well, what's the symptoms? And I told her, and she was like, just ask him. Just ask to see his paperwork from the last time. So I went and asked God, I'm like, hey, you know, just to make me feel better, can I see your paperwork? And he's like, what paperwork? I'm like, you know, from your last STD check. And he's like, well, I've never had an STD check. I said, I'm sorry, what? He said, I've never had an STD check. I said, you're 56 years old. How have you never had an STD check? He said, well, I'm not the kind of person that gets STDs. I said, everybody's the kind of person that has STDs. Everybody that has sex can get STDs. That's why you get checked for STDs. You get checked frequently. You get checked yearly, sometimes more than a time a year. And he's like, well, how do I know you didn't give me something? And I was like, because I have my paperwork with me from prison, because they check you every year in there. And he says,
they do.
It says that you have a history of HPV. And I said, so does the rest of the world, Scott. Everybody has HPV. Everybody that's had sex since the 90s. How do you not know what HPV is? I was like, oh my God, this man is giving me an STD. I freaked out. I lost my ever-loving shit.
Well, let me ask you this. Why was there no protection involved, Lindsay?
Poor choices.
Definitely a poor choice.
Poor choice.
Oh my God.
It happened 2 times. Yep.
You slept with him twice.
Mm-hmm.
Too many times.
Yep. Yes.
Mm-hmm. They try to embellish a storyline a little bit.
They haven't with me. I've heard a lot of cast members that say, hey, this was super fake. And, they had us do this and that and the other. And I'm like, I mean, one, I haven't had them be like, this is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to say. That is not happening to me. But also, I would tell them real quick that that's not what I wasn't going to do that. I'm not going to say that. Nobody can make me do or say anything. If I put anything out on the show, I stand beside it. Like, it was me. Nobody told me to do that. And if anybody's saying that they did, then why did you do it? Right. I don't get.
Well, maybe they felt like they need to because they're on the show.
I guess they're like, I don't, they told me to do this. And I've been like, why don't you just tell them no? Like, if like that was, if they seriously told you to do that and you're like, I don't want to do that, why don't you just be like, nah?
When you film in different locations, a store, the bridal store, at a restaurant, at a gas station, whatever, what do people think when they see you come in? There's cameras, there's people. What is their thought process? Like, what is going on here?
Usually they don't bother us. They don't talk to us. They just kind of look. They'll take pictures or stuff like that. Now, one time when I was first filming, when I had first got home and I was filming with Blaine, and Deonte is driving on the way to me because I got immediate release. I had tried to move to Virginia with Deonte and got denied because Deonte told the probation officer that we was on a TV show and the probation officer didn't want nothing to do with it. Denied me parole, told me I could not ask to go down there at all. Denied me current and future. My case manager's like, I've never even seen that before. They told me don't even ask to go down there. Yes, they told me don't even ask to come to Virginia. Anyway, so I got immediate release. I release, and then I'm with Blaine, and I've called Deonte. He's on the way. As Blaine and me are in the car, a girl that I don't even know is taking pictures of me and Blaine and sending them to Deonte, who was on the way to Corinth at that moment. Yeah.
Oh, sending him pictures through social media.
Yeah, she messaged him on Facebook or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, girl.
Is it worth it?
I mean, yeah.
Meaning having your life out there, is it worth it?
I make $14 an hour at my job, at my day job. It's worth it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, whatever is legally making money to provide for my child. It's worth it.
So it's about the money.
It's always a plus, obviously. Any additional legal income I can bring in, I'm more than happy to do so. And it has opened up a lot of avenues through social media, through Cameo, to, any
sponsors.
Just lots of different things. And like I had a lot of people ask if they could, if I would start what is it called? Some donation site. GoFundMe. GoFundMe for my lawyer. But I had already paid my lawyer by the time everybody was asking about that. But just the fact that people were just like, they saw the struggle I was going through and they wanted to help, like, that's really cool. And the thing is, I appreciate that it gives me a platform to talk about where I was and where I am now. Because my entire life is about recovery. I work in treatment. I'm a mentor and a sponsor. I've completed 2 programs. And I do Jailhouse ministry. So anyway, that helps me connect with people and it gets them to listen because I was on TV. So they feel like that gives me a little more standing for some reason. Anybody that'll take that into consideration, it's great.
See, I appreciate you, child. I appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate you doing this interview. You didn't have to. You did not have to. And you guys, me and Lindsay have been trying to get this interview together for how long have we been trying to get this together?
A week. I know.
Almost a week.
I was telling my mama as I walked in, I was like, she's gonna think that I'm just because I ran in the door and I was like, Mom, mute the TV, and I'm headed to set this up and
No.
the camera up right quick, because I mean I literally do not have one day a week that I am not either in school or at work or in some sort of meeting where I'm like mentoring or something in now. So, but keeping myself busy keeps me sober. So.
Oh yeah, that's good. That is great.
I'm 2.5 years sober.
That's great. That's great. Since I can dish it out, I can take it. You have anything to say to me, girl?
I really enjoy the turn of, so when I've watched your stuff from when I first started 4 years ago, and I watched your stuff now, and you went from a little bit judgy and mean to relatable and funny. And I really like relatable and funny because I can laugh at me as long as we're being funny about it. But like, there's some of these bloggers, I'm like, y'all are just being mean now.
I get that. Look, I can take it. I think some blogger. You call me a blogger? Do you think that's what? Do you consider me a blogger?
No, not you. I'm saying some of the bloggers.
Because I don't even know what to call myself. I just call myself a reviewer.
Some of them. Well, I have a select few that I really watch, and I watch the ones that I find that I can laugh about myself and my situation with, because some of this is really difficult for me, like this season especially, and so it's good to see this like really high dramatic situation where like Blaine's like, he broke my picture frame. My floor is permanently stained. The hot grease ruined my floor. And this is the original flooring in the house. And that was a really crappy situation. I didn't want it to happen on television. So I was bummed that all that got put on television. But it was good that I can flip over to a channel like yours and find some comedy in a situation that was really upsetting for me. And, you taking something that was really a crap day and making me like laugh about it and like send like clips of you to Miley and my mom and stuff like that. So I really appreciate that you have grown. Your channel has grown tremendously from my first season, and I'm glad that we've grown together in this.
I appreciate you, and thank you for understanding. Thank you for speaking to me. Thank you for being so open.
Yeah, I try to keep it real.
I really appreciate that. I'm not that scary.
No, you're not. This was fantastic. This was great.
I'm not scary at all. But thank you for answering my questions, and tell Miley and your mom hello for me.
I will do so.
Whenever you need me to give you some tips about baking, like them biscuits, girl, don't ever buy them canned biscuits again. Ever.
I promise you, I have literally changed the biscuits that we have because of that. I'm telling you, I take constructive criticism. Miley's like, why would we switch biscuits? And I'm like, Sass said too.
That's right.
They're better too.
That is right.
Better. Because when I was making my other biscuits, you always have to make like 5 or 10 at a time. And now
they're so dry. They're dry.
They are dry, actually. I
can't stand them canned biscuits. I was like, every time I see them, I'm like,
it was the next week.
I took a picture.
Took a picture on Twitter of me holding up
the bag
of biscuits. I was like,
I got so tickled. I laughed. But anyway, I know we've been an hour and a half, and so you have a good night. Thank you very much.
You too. And, thank you for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. And maybe I will be seeing you somewhere. Maybe so. All right. All right, y'all. Tell Lindsay bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.